What's up, independent agents? Are you driving your clients off to the carrier self-servicing platforms after the sale just to minimize your service demand? Stop doing that with the premier mobile and web agency solution, GloveBox. Now you can keep your clients in front of your agency at all times, all while delivering the carrier self-service experience that will minimize your service costs and absolutely wow your customers. On top of that, GloveBox will help you increase your cross-sales, referrals, and overall retention with an easy-to-use policyholder interface. Trust me, guys, we're using this at Portal Insurance, and this is literally happening. We are selling policies and servicing policies through our app. Schedule your demo with GloveBox today, and be sure to mention the Insurance Guys podcast for 20% off of your subscription for the life of your account. Guys, it's so cool that I can tell my clients, download the Portal app. Thanks, GloveBox.
Insurance agents from around the world, welcome to the Insurance Guys podcast, powered by GloveBox. My name is Scott Howell, your fearless host and leader, insurance agency owner, and insurance evangelist for I Protect Insurance and Financial Services, based out of Huntsville, Alabama. And before we get started on today's episode, please help me welcome. He is a 6'3" sophomore from Miami, Florida. Rivals 5-star recruit, first team All-American. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and welcome the incomparable Mr. Louis Gazitua. How are you, Louis?
I'm doing great, Scott. Appreciate that. And I love that you put 6'3" because I'm 6'2" and change. When I had longer hair and I'd spike it up a little bit, definitely 6'3". So that is my baseball card, 6'3". I appreciate that.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Did you ever in college throw it out? You know what I mean? Like really
I did.
Go
yeah. I got some good pictures. Unfortunately, it was before. That's back when MySpace was kind of getting kind of popular, but pre-social media. So I got a lot of photos I got to dig up and I'll put it out there. But man, my hair I had so much hair. Unfortunately, right? Father Time caught up to me. But I used to have so much hair that I cut it, kind of thinking like, I didn't need it. Now I wish I had it back. So.
Yeah. I think I'm there too right now. My hair in the back is started to fade away, and I don't know. I've considered hair plugs. I'm not there yet, but I'll tell you this: I'm not too far away from just having to shave mine. That's about where I'm at.
Yeah, it's the point of no return. I'm holding the line. I'm losing it. You know, it's kind of one of those things where there's no turning back. So stay strong, man.
Louis, I have a question for you today. Please feel free to take some time to think about this before you answer. It's my question of the day for Top 5. For those of you that don't know, I call Louis Top 5. Here is the question. What is an extraordinary life for you?
You know what? It would be not being forced to take a meeting. It's time. It's being able to dictate time. I think that's one of those things where I look it back now. Again, I'm turning 40 next month, and looking back, and I just feel like the days go slow, the weeks go fast, and you're almost like dictated or handcuffed to your schedule. And even though we're working remotely, whatever, Zoom call or not, I just feel like being able to not take a meeting, right? That's kind of an extraordinary life for me, where it's on my terms, right? On 100% of the time.
So that is a fantastic answer, by the way, and it rolls into something I was telling my sister the other day. She had called me about some career advice, and she got all the looks and the brains in the family. I got absolutely nothing. She was a 4-year majorette at the University of Alabama. If you've ever watched an Alabama football game, the CBS camera crew cannot stay off the majorettes. They're always showing the majorettes. And then she graduates top of her class in law school and has been, she's just done really well for herself. But we were talking, and she's asking me some career advice about some certain things she was looking at. And I said, Cheryl, my definition of success is freedom. And that kind of rolls into what you just said about having the freedom to take that meeting or not take that meeting. I don't know that I clearly have a firm grasp on what an extraordinary life for me is. And maybe I'm living that now. Maybe I'm living it and I just don't know it.
I mean, honestly, it's perspective. I think we can get really philosophical, but it could just be being in the present.
Right.
Being in the moment. I mean, we talk about so much like the next level of consciousness and how to be present and all these different kind of things. I mean, it could be defined in different ways. But if you
Right.
ask me that question, first thing I thought about is I think about extraordinary life, being in the moment with my family, and just doing it on my terms, right?
Right.
Being able to, and I think that's why we got into this business too, right? I think one of the best things about being in the insurance business is as you grow your book, you're able to kind of dictate, again, how you handle it. We all have different challenges and different things, but we all deal with it in different ways. But being able to dictate things on your own terms and control your own future, that's kind of why that's why we got into this. That's why I got into this.
So next question for you. And I'm asking you these questions because I want our 250,000 insurance agents that are out there listening to this to ask themselves these same questions. Next question. Write down one thing. We'll just say one thing for right now. For me, it's probably multiple things, but one thing that controls your life in a negative way.
I would say expectations, right? Expectations of others. I could say the biggest mistakes I've made in this business it's never intentional. We're all good people, right? But it's always trying to go above and beyond. It's always trying to do the right thing. I mean, I could tell you, knock on wood, right? I haven't had any sort of E&O issues. I mean, we have our problems, right? Things happen.
Sure.
Something wasn't signed, but it's always been the most issues I've ever had was me not giving kind of that bad news 30 days out, that non-renewal, but talking to 3 or 4 different companies, underwriters saying, oh, I think I have a solution, and kind of living on Hope Island. I have a big house in Hope Island, man. Talk about that. That's no taxes, 5,000 square foot house, big boat, but that's where I live most of the time. I think that has to do with me always trying to live up to these expectations of others. And it's a detriment. It stresses me out the most. I mean, I'm a miserable person when I feel I let somebody down. And I know it sounds like I actually empathize for others who don't do that, who kind of just, basically, brush it off, right? Hey, I don't care. I mean, your policy lapsed, your premium went up 10%, 20%. I take things so personal that it controls me. You talk about control. I mean, call it fear, I'm trying to articulate it in the best way possible, but really it's managing other people's expectations, and it's never good enough.
Do you know who is exactly like that? I mean, there could not be a more perfect other person that does this exact same thing. Clinton Orr in my agency, man, everything you just said is him to a T. Like if a client gets upset with him, he really, really, really takes it personally. Like it weighs on him for days and days. And then that person gets upset, and then he tries even harder to make whatever it is they're upset about right. And it's almost like this hamster wheel that he gets on. The other thing I was going to say about that is we have a hard and fast rule in our agency and you mentioned like waiting on some other markets to come back before you call. We have a hard and fast rule. If we're going to call you with bad news, we desperately want to try to call you with good news as well. And sometimes if you're waiting on that quote from that carrier and that it just keeps dragging out and out and out, you don't want to call the guy or girl and say, hey, I got bad news, but I don't really have an answer for you right now.
It's a dilemma. I mean, I grew up, like it's almost instilled with my family and, and the restaurant business, and just like my father, he'd always saying, we don't have problems. Don't talk about the problem, talk about the solution.
Right.
So I almost get myself in trouble with that type of mindset where something bad happens. I don't want to call you with the problem, right? I want to, and again, it's that catch-22. And I understand the mindset. As you get older, you kind of understand how you get yourself in trouble.
Right.
But man, we want to be solution oriented all the time. And 99% is not good enough. It's got to be 100% of the time.
Yeah. I will say this about myself. I asked the question and I didn't ask it of myself, which was what controls you? I would say for me, it's nicotine. Always needing to either smoke a cigarette or have a dip in my mouth all the time. That would be something that I desperately need to stop, because number one, it would free up more of my time. I mean, there's probably an hour or two a day I'm doing that I'm wasting. Maybe not that much. The other thing I could see something that would control somebody that's kind of in a negative way is social media.
Yep.
I think people are blind for the most part to how much time a day they spend looking at this phone right here.
I'm embarrassed when Apple tells me daily or weekly how much time. I'm like, 6 hours? Was that good or bad? I
could be a doctor. I could be a doctor right now in the time it took me over the past 5 years to look at social media.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I'm with you. And on the social side, obviously we're both big advocates of it. We're kind of all into it. I believe in it. But the more I do it, I think I'm going to throw a number out there. It doesn't matter. Maybe 90% of the people. Let's give 10% a break. But 90% of the people I don't think they use it in the correct fashion, right? And what I mean by that is most people kind of navigate and they're looking at others. I think the intentionality of social media is to be social, is to connect with others. And it's like, that's the kind of platform where we all fall into a trap that we make it about ourselves. It's like me. When this should be about how do I help others? How do I connect with others? How do I congratulate others? It's one of those things where if we did that, by the way, our mental health would be a lot better.
Absolutely.
But I think we've lost kind of our way on that. And I just think most people don't do it with the correct mindset. And everybody says the same excuse. Oh, I don't own a business, or I don't do this, or it's not me, or I'm too embarrassed. Well, get uncomfortable. I mean, if you did it the right way, look, we connected through social,
right?
I can say proudly, I've made so many connections on different platforms, using it with the right type of mindset of to connect with others. And if more people did that, I think it would change this whole social media. And the whole negative connotation of it.
Yeah, I think if you're on Twitter spending an hour having a Twitter fight about whether Urban Meyer should be fired or not, you're probably not using it the way that it was intended for it to be used when it started, right?
Right.
The other part of that is putting yourself out there and your content to allow others to, as I always say, and I talked to Gary Vaynerchuk for a long time about this when I was with him up in New York, there's that part of being either a business owner or just a person. When you're putting out enough content, people start feeling like they know you on a personal level. Could be in Denver, Colorado, and I've never met them before, but 100%. They feel like they know you on a personal level. So that to me is a great way to utilize social media, especially as an insurance agent, because that's what you want. You want people to feel like they know you.
It's not like, and God bless anybody who's not in our business, right? Like if I empathize for realtors. Yes, they get bigger commission checks, but you got to be at the right place at the right time. We sell insurance. Everyone's a potential client on multiple levels, on any level. It's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? Just show up to the game type deal. So yeah, if you're not taking advantage of the social, at least putting yourself out there. We can have the hours of conversation on that. And I think most people I'll give anybody listen to this. Most people give excuses of why not to do things. And again, it's always the same thing about anything in life, right? It's either, I don't want to get uncomfortable, it's too expensive, or it's inconvenient. Well, guess what? That makes you successful, right? Like anybody who does anything successful, but you got to do one of those things.
Right.
This is one of them as well. And video is a great platform. Most people don't want to expose themselves. I'm like, so if you want to get better at social, write a check to somebody and hold them accountable. Right. Give them 10 grand and say, if I don't do 100 posts, I'll get you the money back. You're going to see how fast you're going to put yourself out there. Because when it's free, it's kind of, you don't have that extra push to take to the next level.
That's right. So top 5, we got a project today, and that's to help these 250,000 insurance agents out there. And we've got a lot to talk about, a lot of things we wanted to discuss today, that some of which has never been brought up on this podcast. The first thing, and I know this is something that you're really passionate about, and it's something that I think a lot about, and I have some thoughts on, but we talked before we got on the show today about that 3 to 5 year rut that I think every insurance agent in America, maybe it's 3 to 7 year rut, but where you've gone out, you've worked your ass off for 3, 4, 5 years. Maybe you've built a pretty successful agency, and now you find yourself either you're tied down because you don't have enough help and you don't have enough people maybe helping you in your agency. So you're tied down with servicing your renewal book of business, and you're finding it harder and harder to write new business. Or it could just be, and I've seen this in my own agency quite quite frequently where you just get burned out and you're like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Right.
I can't do this. Give me your thoughts on it.
I love talking about this stuff because it's in any angle I come at, it's personal experience. And I see it now. And the same conversation I have with some of our staff and some of the younger agents I'm trying to mentor. When you get to this, I call it almost like running on a treadmill, right?
Mhm.
Like it's almost like you build up, getting through those first couple of years is probably the most difficult. Once you get that first renewal commission and you start to realize, okay, I'm actually starting to build. What happens is I think if you don't build enough good habits as far as prospecting, you kind of let the foot off the gas. Like I think I've always realized, the little things you do, whether you think they actually antiquate as far as new business, the little things, the little messages, the networking, whether you call it social or whether you call it just cold calling or whatever your tactic is, you realize that the slow months you have in your career is if you look back, the last 3 months, you haven't been doing the little things.
Mhm.
And I think what happens is it kind of hits you in the face once you get to kind of year 3, where now all of a sudden you're starting to develop and make some money. You almost become and this word's proper now, but you almost become a slave to your renewal book.
Right.
Right. And you it's almost like no man's land. Why? Because you need to make sure you renew the accounts, right? You're relying on that income now,
Mhm.
right? Everyone knows every month those 2-3 accounts that you want to keep, right? I can tell you right now, March, April, June, which are my anchor accounts that, obviously could make or break that month. It's how do you evolve from that and not kind of get stuck on that treadmill where you continue to grow your book. I don't know if there's a right answer, but I think it's making yourself aware of what's happening is kind of the first step to get out of that rut.
Yeah.
Some people might say, let me go hire other producers and feed them business, but does that create bad habits as well? Right. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I think a lot of times agency owners get stuck into it and they kind of try to outsource that problem instead of kind of doing better internal controls to figure out ways to kind of fix that, right? Or at least make that better to continue to help you kind of grow your book of business.
So I'll add to that. It's very difficult if you're in a niche that you're really good at in terms of an insurance agent that you write a lot of, but it's a complicated sometimes risk in that particular niche. The more complicated the niche is that you service or that you sell, the harder it is to find and develop and train and get somebody that could potentially work with your client base of a very complicated risk sometimes on the renewals. Because first and foremost, the person, maybe your contact that you wrote that account, that $100,000 account with, do they really want to work with John that you hired to be their renewal specialist?
No, they don't. They don't.
They don't. They want to talk.
I mean, it's right. Like you got that account by going in person, working your tail off for 90 days to get that account.
Right.
Now year 2 or 3, you kind of let the gas, you fall off the gas. And now they're saying, hey, Scott Howe, now you forgot about me. You're too big time. You're making, you get those comments. Hey, you're making too much money. I guess my account's too small.
Right.
I mean, man, I used to, even personalized accounts, I used to go to people's homes. Like I would drive and sit there and do the whole dog and pony show for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Again, nothing but a different kind of, it's different kind of business. But I mean, and now they're calling you and your phone's ringing and if you don't pick up the phone, you kind of feel bad. You say, hey, well, you get the comments of but how do you kind of like transition out from that?
Right.
And can you trust somebody to kind of pass the baton? It's a dilemma we all go through. And I don't know there's one clear answer. I think there's multiple ways to kind of get out of it, almost like trial and error. But I think getting into it, if you're an agent, it almost should be something you think about when you're year 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Before you get stuck on that treadmill, you almost want to start planting those seeds. Like why would it be bad to tell one of your insurers, like, hey, I'm growing my business. I'm looking for, thank you for being part of my success. I can't wait till I have an associate of mine help take care of you. Because that means I can grow X, like almost like bring your clients with you as you grow your book and your agency. I think if you can do that and have that awareness, you kind of start planting that seed where they don't get disappointed. They're going to be happy for you. Oh, that's great. Scott's must be doing something else. I'm happy for this person to join Scott,
So I couldn't agree with you more. So let me throw this out at you. So Chris Paradiso has 4 renewal specialists. That's all they do. I believe he has 2 on personal lines, 2 on commercial, if I'm not mistaken. and I don't think you would mind me sharing that. Chris is someone who truly believes that's where the magic happens. But here's the issue with that. He also says that the most important person in your agency that has to be this unicorn, if you will, is that renewal specialist. Because if you think about it, they've got to have some sales acumen. They've got to know what they're doing and what they're talking about. And they need to be able to clearly explain things to the person they're talking to, the client that they're talking to. They've got to deliver some maybe bad news, but also mix that with good news with, hey, your insurance went up, but here's what we've done. That role in an insurance agency is, in my opinion, might be the hardest role. If you had a great one, like a really, really good renewal specialist, that's a diamond in the rough to find that person.
I think that's, if I had to be completely transparent, that's probably one of our, I don't want to use the word weaker aspects of our agency. It just becomes from a mindset. Sometimes you get so like the onboarding process, right? How do you, this is a huge issue, not huge, but an issue where the experience for one of your clients as far as onboarding, what's that like the first 12 months?
Yeah.
Then on the renewal term, what's that like on the second month? Is there a drop off? Again, it's all about setting expectations with some of your clients. When one's on the onboarding process, Lewis came to the meeting, Lewis did this, he dealt with our marketing specialist, our team, and all of a sudden it transfers. How do you keep that up? How do you keep, and I agree with you. I think the renewal side, which is, that's where we make our money. That's how we do this.
Exactly.
You got to keep it in house. But that goes back to the first point. If you're spending so much time on the renewals, how do you balance that? How do you balance the renewal and stay focused on the growth side of writing new business? Retention strategies are huge. It's an issue we all deal with. I'm not sure I had the exact answer. I could just kind of like, which is why I love talking about this stuff too, is who's doing what and how you're doing it, personalities, and finding different ways of overcoming these small issues that we all deal with.
So it's been an issue in our agency that we've been trying to crack the code on for 1 year. And we've talked to multiple agencies without any, there will never be a general consensus, because the agency over here will beat their fist on the desk and say, you've got to do it this way. You can't do it any other way. Then the agency next to them will say, no, that's not how we do it. We do it this way. But let me throw another monkey wrench into this for you. So Billy Williams, my friend Billy Williams, I believe he has over 100 agencies under his umbrella. He did a 3-year study, and that study, he took a certain number of agencies and they called on every renewal. And then they took a certain number of agencies and they didn't call on any renewals. And at the end of that 3 years, the data that came back was that there was no difference between the retention ratio for the agencies that called on renewals versus the retention ratio of those that did not.
Interesting. I think it could be, and again, it's all different. I think it could be even regional. It could be the type of business as well. Is it direct bill, agency bill? If things are kind of cruise control, I think that's ideal, right? Most people don't shop it. You direct bill, there's a 1 or 2% bump, but that's an interesting issue. What happens with us is when the market gets kind of, and I'm in South Florida, which is a hard market, right? Everything is surplus lines in excess. You'll get such fluctuations in certain type of accounts. It's a bloodbath. The last 18 months, I don't think I've saved anybody money on a renewal.
Right.
Not one person. We've become health insurance. I feel like I've become a health insurance agent on the PNC side, which is great. You know what? We got to change that mindset, because it's funny. We're getting into the employee benefit space now as well. And it's one of those things where when you're selling health insurance, the clients are almost expecting an increase. It's almost how bad, right? We got to get that. We got to get that going on the PNC side as well, so they can say, hey, 6% bump. You should be happy, right?
Yeah, should be happy about that. So what we're trying to do in our agency is design a renewal process that is very specific to the culture and what we do here at I Protect Insurance. And I don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet. One idea that I've had is to reach out to our clients midterm so that we're not waiting until that 30 days or 15 days. And now the whole conversation is just about price. It's just about, oh, your insurance went up. But reaching out more in the vein of, hey, we're just calling you to tell you how much we appreciate you. And I just want to make sure we got all your information updated. If you're a commercial policy holder, I want to email you your schedule to make sure you look at this and make sure we got all your properties and things on here correctly. Something like that, rather than just this constant hamster wheel of calling every client at the renewal date. And now the whole damn thing is nothing but, why is my insurance going up, or why, that kind of thing. So I don't know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you, sorry to interrupt you, but I want to ask you, do you think a lot of it matters? Do you think, how you get your business should be a direct kind of reflection of how your renewal strategy is? Because some of us tend to be, outbound type agencies. Some are inbound. Again, we tend to be more outbound. That's just the way we've done it. I think we get a little more wiggle room, to be honest with you, as far as renewals. Like I can get away with more stuff, completely honest, because it's not as transactional. I think sometimes on the inbound stuff, and again, it's both work, right? But sometimes on the inbound, it just seems to be, the expectations are more transactional. I don't know if you have to be so hands-on as far as a renewal basis.
So
my thoughts.
It's funny you bring that up. We had that conversation as kind of a starting point of, who do you call? And I think where it starts is all the way back. And if we're playing the game Candyland, all the way back to the starting line of putting something in our management system that is a question regarding renewals at the policy sale day one. Do you want us to call you at your renewal? Or would you rather?
Like that.
And I think the question has to be something like, if your policy doesn't go up very much at all, less than 10%, less than 5%, do you want us to call you at your renewal, or do you want us to email you at your renewal? And if the answer to that, and I've asked many, many, many people that question, and again, that's another question that gets lots of different answers. So some people are like, no, I don't want to hear from you at renewal. If nothing's changed, if the policy really doesn't go up. Some people are like, yes, call me every renewal. I want to go over my insurance. So it's this mixed bag, but I think it starts back at the beginning of or at the end of the sales process to begin with, to kind of find out from them, okay, what is your expectation at renewal? Are you one of these people that wants us to call you? Because here's the one thing that I've noticed, because for many, many, many years before we went to the automated birthday call that we have now, ringless voicemail, I would call all of my clients on their birthday every day. I had like a list of 10, 20 people I called.
It's great.
And to a person, when I call them, almost, and I've done thousands and thousands of these phone calls, they would come out of the gate hot with, what's wrong?
Right.
It's that, what's wrong? My insurance agent's calling me, something's wrung mentality. So I think some people are kind of worried that when you do call them, it's bad news on some level.
No, us as salespeople, being insurance agents, you got to be almost like a utility player. You got to have different moves for everything. It's funny, you'll get that client. I like this line where, someone will give me a hard time about the renewal. Hey, you only call me on renewal, or hey, what happened? Bad news. And for my line is, hey, we didn't talk. Great news. Your house didn't burn down and your rate didn't go up. Right? It's not a bad thing if we didn't talk. So I kind of like pivot that way sometimes. But it's interesting how every people have, and it's all expectations. But I think going back to this aspect of like the 3 to 5 year, 7-year mark, what's the best way of getting out of that renewal rut? And we talk about it now. There's no right answer. Like, you need to keep those renewals because that's more profitable. You did the hard work up front, right? Now that's where you make your money. Now, I've even kicked around, do you start to become, and again, every agency is different. Like, do we start to evolve into an in-house type agent role to help keep the renewals? But then, again, selfishly speaking, I didn't grow up that way. But does that create bad habits, to the in-house agents, right? Or the account managers, do you give them incentives as far as keeping accounts? But did that take away of the other side? I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. It's almost like I keep going back and forth of, I don't know. I mean, I know that in my situation, the way we kind of grew up, the fact that I have two partners and we all kind of grew up together, I mean, we were so transparent with each other that, there were accounts that I could just tell, Fernando wasn't vibing as much. It
Right.
was just becoming clunky. I'd step in. I got this one. I got your back. I mean, I empathize for agency owners who do this on their own.
Yeah.
Love my wife. I mean, we talk about everything all the time, but she doesn't know what it is to deal with an insured or a 30% increase and vice versa. So having that springboard and having kind of like that locker room mentality where we can balance things off has kept me sane for the last 15 years.
So here's my Scott Howell final take on the renewal process. I believe, and I'm speaking to the 250,000 insurance agents out there listening right now. I believe that every agency should have some form of customized for their agency renewal process of some kind. And it needs to be customized for that agency and their culture and the way they do things. And then it also has to be determined by how many people you have in your agency. Because if you're in there by yourself and you're relying on yourself to sell every day, you ain't going to be able to call on many renewals if you want to keep growing your agency, right? But I do believe that each agency should have some kind of process in place for some type of renewals. But here's the great news, guys. If you're listening to this, I have been diligently working on this with my team for 1 year, one solid year, and we still have not come up with a firm, definitive process on how we're going to do this. Right now, we're just flying by the seat of our pants.
I mean, we've even kicked around too about, do you only shop around or address a certain percentage increase?
Yeah.
Is it 5%, right? What's the number? I mean, because the truth is, it's all about time is valuable, and how do we get more efficient? Like, how do we know that we're shopping around or remarketing the correct accounts? I mean, there's some clients that are perfectly happy. Like you mentioned too, Scott, everyone's different. They're okay with a 10% bump. It's
Right.
through escrow. They're fine with it. Don't call me, don't bother me.
Right.
Don't, sometimes you try to play hero. So one of the things we do is as far as our agents goes, is they don't, unless they meet with their account management team on both personal and commercial. We have two different departments to kind of split them up. Unless the agent or producer says, I want to remarket this account, our account team does not do it unless they get a call.
Right.
It's just the only way we've been able to kind of manage, because I kind of put that onus on as an agent, as a producer. You should know your clients better than your account manager. It's just, it has to be. I mean, that's, you wrote it, you got commission tied to it. You should have a pulse on, hey, Miss Jones is a little difficult. She needs a call or an email the next 15 to 21 days, right? And then Mr. Gonzalez, that guy's my best client. He's called me twice in 10 years. He's on cruise control. Actually, I'll make an argument, now that I'm thinking about it, the guy that calls me 2 times in 10 years, I want to call that guy. He's my guy. I want to find out who he is so I can be proactive and call him, because that is retention, not the one that calls me every renewal. So it's like it's an 80-20 rule. Like, I get it, but I want to flip it of like, who is more profitable? Who's kind of like that long-term, less needs to be touched more, right? As far as an account.
So my next question to you, and this goes out to the 250,000 agents out there today. What do you do if you're an insurance agent and you've been in the business, let's say 5 to 7 years, maybe 10 years, 5 to 10 years, and you get burned out and you just don't want to do it anymore? I mean, we all have those days. We all have those days when you just think, my God, I don't know if I can do this again tomorrow. But I mean, Clint's battled with this. There have been times with Clinton or in my agency when we have discussions and I literally don't know whether or not he can continue doing it. And I'm going to tell you, part of his problem, and it's a problem that I think a lot of agents have, is once you get into a niche in a commercial space and you become the expert in that niche, and that's all you're doing repetitively every single day. Same thing with personal lines, every single day.
Yeah.
You do it in your sleep. After 5, 6, 7, 10 years of dealing with the same type of people, the same type of risk over and over and over again, what do you do when if you ever get to that point where you're just like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore?
That's such a great point. You know,
Have you ever gotten to that point?
Yeah, no, I have. And I have a couple of my teammates that are in that mode. And the conversation I have is, and again, it's harder, it's easier to say, give advice when you're not in the game, right? But then we go over the book and we realize, man, you've been stagnant for the last 2, 3 years. You're writing the same type of accounts. You have forgotten how to get uncomfortable and do the things that you could change it. Like if you're a transportation person, transportation, why not go after property? I mean, we're all, it's all the same thing, right? But sometimes we forget how to kind of step out of our comfort zone. And that's the case because honestly, having the diversity of it, the different clients, the different policy products does break up that monotony of, oh my gosh, I'm doing this again, right? You just kind of go on cruise control. But you got to get out of your comfort zone and just do different stuff. And again, down here, South Florida is a little bit different in other places, but like I've never been a big believer in getting in the niche type business. I just feel like it's kind of ripe for disruption, whether it's technology or whether a market goes away. So I'm a big believer in diversifying your book, kind of building like a fire resistant type book of business, right? COVID happens, your hospitality book sucks because everybody starts closing, workers' comp specialists, their payrolls got cut in half, you lost some revenue. So diversifying your book, I think it's, for me, kind of protects you, number one, from market conditions, but it also breaks up that monotony of getting uncomfortable and digging and testing yourself. And, how do I get better? Let's start learning about cyber, right? Let's start getting into employer practice liability. What is that? Why not? People are scared of workers' comp for what? It might be the easiest policy to sell in the country. Yeah. So I think pushing yourself to get uncomfortable can break that up.
I have gone so far with Clint when we've had those times. He's not there right now, but those times where he was just completely burned out, where I've gone so far as to say, why don't you take 3 months off?
Wow.
Just take 3 months off. I'll continue to pay you some form of salary during that time. You saved up some money with all the stuff you sold over the years. Take a sabbatical and just walk away from it. Turn your cell phone off, change your number for 3 months, whatever you got to do, and then make that decision as to whether you're going to stay or go. But I think
what, and I empathize for you guys, and I've spoken to Clinton before as well, and you as well, Scott. Like that transition. Talk about what Nationwide's doing, right? Like on most of your book, like it's again, that's our job, right? We're on the front lines. We get to get yelled at our customers, but all of a sudden, accounts that you had the perfect market, good rate, protected, admitted placement. Now they're cleaning their book out, right? Non-renewing accounts. Yep. Now you got to go E&S, and now you got to offer a 30% renewal. Man, that's stressful. Like that's where this job becomes tough. Those are the tough times you got to kind of grind through. But I empathize for you guys and the stuff that you have to go through the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a challenge, and you bring up a great point. And I know a lot of independent agents that have done this before, where they've got a lot of a niche book of business, millions of dollars in premium, and one morning after eating a bad piece of pizza, the carrier that they've had all this business with comes out and says, "We don't want that anymore." So now you've got to spend an entire year just remarketing your renewals, really, because they're non-renewed.
It's damage control, right? Yeah. Because those accounts now are going to get out, obviously, with sticker shock. Like, and how do you handle that too? This is an interesting question too about when you're an agent, and our goal, right? We want to get renewal terms 30 days, 45 days out. I don't know that works anymore to our clients. But now you got a non-renewal 30 days out. It's a 30% increase. Yep. Do you start to try to become a hero, right? Like we talked about expectations and doing the right thing. Do you start to try to find solutions? Because insureds don't understand that. So if you give them a 30% increase 30 days out, what are they going to do? They're not going to trust you on face value. Maybe your brother might, your cousin, maybe your father, but they're going to shop you around. And that might be the best option. Right. And that's where we get into this industry. I mean, I love it. The only frustration is, and I love being an independent agent, is I feel like by doing these kind of things and having these conversations, we're better together. Because the insurance carriers in general, they are not our partners. Yeah. I tell them all the time, like, you're not. You're my client, but my insured is not your client. It doesn't work like that. Yeah. I mean, we're all here to make money, right? You're going to beat me up on my loss ratio. Like so I'm supposed to write everything, and my loss ratio needs to be, less than 10%, or you're going to cut my contract. How am I supposed to do that in good faith? You tell me you're looking after our insured. it's kind of this huge dilemma, which is great that we're all in this together. I mean, I love it, but then Nationwide terminating your book, basically because of the new CEO or whatever they did, right? Some bad underwriting from somebody else's decision. Now they're going to flip their book around, not renew you guys, and now you got to go E&S. I mean, I'm surprised Clinton still has some hair left. Crazy.
It's so funny that every insurance carrier in America is always in the insurance cycle. And, you and I are in the HAB space, and we know we're in a hardened market right now, but I don't know when the last time I've seen so many admitted carriers that are just walking away from the habitational property investor stuff as they are right now. And, I've been told, and I'm using Nationwide as an example, that for every $1 of premium in their HAB book of business that they've got, they have to keep $4 in reserve. So
I got a problem with that in general, right? I always think whenever carriers make these decisions, whether it's lowering commission, eliminating a line of business, I mean, it's on their end. I mean, we're doing the upfront work, right? Us as agents, we're on the front lines doing the upfront underwriting, trying to get quality business. I mean, a lot of them don't handle claims well. Right. And the truth is, they're outsourcing it as well. So they don't want to take on that cost of having, back in the day, Scott, if you remember, when you had a Nationwide adjuster, that experience was so much more seamless, right? It was the same person, carrier, insured, and that's a partnership.
Knew the guy by his fact. My Nationwide property adjuster sent me a text message last month, and I'd already had this conversation with him. Been with Nationwide as a staff adjuster for 20, 30 years, and the message just said my last day is September 24th.
Wow.
And as I was telling you, I think I was venting to you on the phone the other day, and I've vented to some other podcast hosts like Ryan Hanley and Jason Cass, Bradley Flowers. I have never seen, in the 13 years I've been in the insurance business, the claims process as horrible as it is right now. And the reason I know that is because in my agency, I'm the last line of defense.
Yeah.
When my claims manager runs a claim for somebody and submits it, she has strict instructions. If the client gets to level fifth gear, if you will, and pissed offness, then that's time to pull bring the goalie in, Scott Howell, and let him handle it. And so every week I've got 2 or 3 new claims from clients that are just irate about their claims experience. And I can't help but think it's got something to do with this COVID virus. Adjusters are all working from home. They're sending out a roof inspector from Atlanta. He doesn't know anything about the contract. The homeowners, standing on their front porch waiting on him to get there because they've got 30 questions. That guy has no answers. Well, you need to call your desk adjuster in Columbus, Ohio, or Des Moines, Iowa, or California, wherever the person's at. And dude, I've never seen, and maybe that's a sales thing that maybe now more than ever, it's important to have an insurance agent that you can pick up the phone and call when you have problems with claims, because it seems almost like every claim we file is a problem.
I agree with you. And I think this was before COVID, to be honest with you. I mean, it's never been a very seamless process, but and again, and that's just I'm not even talking about going to the excess and surplus lines world, because that's another, that's the success rate there. Talk about fighting with people. That's another, but it's almost like a lot of these admitted carriers, they've almost gone to that model where they're going to third-party administrators, right? These third-party TPAs, regionally or locally. I mean, you saw the desk adjuster that works for Nationwide, but they're hiring, Ingle Martin in Palm Beach to drive down. Well, they're not going to drive down. They're going to call somebody else. And it's just like anything, like if someone's going to call my office and it takes 5 people to answer the question, it's going to be bad information, bad communication, an email's going to get lost. I just think they've lost this, it's almost like a mindset. I just feel like we're crunching numbers and we're not doing what we're supposed to do, is fulfilling that promise, right, of this insurance contract to pay a claim. That should be the first thing. It's almost like we've lost That's my feeling on this side, and this is with a lot of carriers. There are a few good ones out there that are changing it, but in a majority of them, they just kind of, it's almost like we're looking at like we're an accounting firm now. We're not an insurance company who's supposed to pay claims.
Well, I've never seen it like this, as bad as it's gotten. I had two call me yesterday. One, I had to take the phone and put it out here to my, because they were yelling so loud. I couldn't have the phone up to my ear. And they all say the same thing. I'm sorry, it's not you. You're doing it. I know you're doing everything you can. You answer the phone every time I call you. You're copying me on all the emails that you're sending to the adjuster and to the company. It's not you. And then they go right back in the tirade again. But those sons of bitches have come out here and they told me and blah, 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 blah. It's just tough, man. It's tough.
I mean, I've even, what we started doing too on the wholesale, say the surplus lines excess side is, and I'm not blaming the adjusters. I just think the system, the way it's set up, it's like playing telephone. It just doesn't work. Some of these adjusters are overwhelmed, and it's almost like the same way. It's almost like you're sending a submission to an underwriter, and they got 100 submissions on their desk. Who they're going to work on first? The same thing's happening on the claim side. The adjuster has 100 files, right? So what we started doing is, we actually ask a lot of our carriers, I want to talk to your claims people. I just want to make sure as an agent, and they kind of freak out about that question too. Like, why would you answer that? Look, I want to know who your claims manager is. Can I send her an email or him an email? Can I talk to him? I want them to know, I'm empathetic about their job, but if a claim comes from Jag Insurance Group, hey, look, we're here. Call me. I'll let you know everything about it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If they're wrong, you're wrong. But we started almost working claims people the same way we work underwriters. And that never happened 15 years ago. It wasn't even a question.
Here's what I always think about. If your average homeowner premium is $2,000, I'm just throwing that number out there. Some states it's like on the coast, it's probably at least that much. Up here, it's a little less. But let's just say it's $2,000. Now we know that the average person, Joe Public, files one claim about every 8 to 10 years. So I'm just going to use 10 years as the baseline here. But if you're buying a piece of paper, that's all you're doing, buying a piece of paper. Over a 10-year period on homeowners, you've paid $20,000, okay? Now let's say the average annual premium for a vehicle policy is say $2,500 if you got a family, couple cars, annual premium. You multiply that times 10, that's $25,000. There is a person right there that over a 10-year period hasn't had a claim, not one claim, has paid $45,000 for a piece of paper.
Yep.
The least I can do as an insurance agent is be the last line of defense when they finally do have that claim and it all goes south. And there's a pretty good chance it's going to.
No, it's going to, but that's why we look at, this is a numbers game now. There's no more, it's, again, I'm going to throw this out there. I bet you I'm probably right. Any CEO, CFO of any insurance company, I guarantee you they're an accountant or a finance major. Like, I don't even know that much about claims. Like, I think claims in general has been pushed away as like, oh, we don't need that. That's an outsource. Don't call me.
Right.
Like, I just think it hasn't been what companies should be doing as far as a priority. That's the feeling I get from most of the carriers. Not all of them. There are a few good ones, but most of them.
Hey, I got a story for you. I sit at my desk last Wednesday, earlier than that, 2:00. Buddy of mine from my hometown, Hamilton, Alabama. Shout out to Tyler Bowen. Does not have his insurance with me. Not yet. He calls me. He says, Scott, I got a problem. I need your help. I said, okay, what do you need? And he starts going into this claim. Wife was a no-fault claim. She wasn't her fault. She files the claim with Allstate. They talk her into filing it on her policy instead of the other drivers. Don't know why that happened. So I said, Tyler, I'm listening to all this. I said, I'm a man of action. So give me the number, give me your claim number, and let's you and I call Allstate's auto claim representative that you've been dealing with, and let's just talk through it with him and see if we can get some answers and find out more about the problems that you're having. So as I call Allstate, and this rolls right back into what you just said, here's what I find out in that call. If you have an auto claim with Allstate now, and I'm just using them as an example. There's a lot of different carriers that are probably the same way or are moving to this. They now have an auto claim pool. So think about that. Instead of you having one adjuster, cell phone, email address, hey, I got some problems. Every time you have a question, let's say you've been talking to somebody for an hour and then you hang up and you go, oh man, I forgot to ask him about this. You're getting a new person on the phone. So here we go. We're going to start all over again.
It's an absolute nightmare. I mean, it's disappointing. I mean, but it's a nightmare that the system doesn't work. We've gotten, and I get it. That's above my pay grade, but I just think, and look, and then you'll see I'm not an Allstate agent, so I can say whatever I want about them, right? But then what Allstate will do is, they'll go ahead and invest and buy insurance, right? So they're gonna compete against their agents. And then about a year ago, they went back and they cut.
Yeah.
I think they went from 10 to 9% on renewal books of business for Allstate agents.
Yeah, they did.
Talk about the laziest decision, right? Oh, we're not being profitable. How about you do a better job as far as paying claims, right? Instead taking the money out of the insurance agent's pocket. It's such a lazy move. Whenever I see companies cutting commission, it's someone trying to cover their ass, right?
You know what that is, don't you? That's a board of directors that has to answer to Wall Street.
No, I know. Watch this. I'm gonna make 10% more on the bottom line, and it's just so disappointing, man. So that's why back to are you partners? Are we? Man, we're independent agents on the front lines on our own. It's almost like this band of brothers. If we don't stick together, who's gonna help us?
Yeah, nobody. Nobody.
Well,
hey, last thing we want to talk about real briefly, and then we got to go. We'll spend 5 minutes on it, and then we'll let these agents go and let them go kick ass and take names today. Succession planning. We talked a little bit about it before we got on this podcast today. Guys, I can't tell you how many times I've seen insurance agents that did not have succession planning and put in place. Maybe they're bumping 65, 70, 75. And one day they're walking to their car and they have a massive heart attack and die. And there's that business just starts walking within days. That business is just going to start walking out the door. Not to mention the fact that some carriers may go, oh my gosh, well, we need to protect these policies. There's no succession plan in place. So, hey, guy over here, guess what you just got? All of Scott Howell's book of business he did have. We got to put it somewhere to protect it.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
It's going to happen, right? And again, I'm only going based on what I've seen the last 10 years of other agency owners, and Father Time's going to creep up. It's just going to happen. The next 10 years is going to creep up. I actually think the better succession plan you have, the more valuable your agent's going to be, whether you want to sell or not. And I can go back and forth. We're all in this because it's fun, right? It's a great time. I enjoy it. I mean, cash flow is king. But what if you don't want to sell out, right? What if you don't want to have that event? Or if you do want to have that event, you can either keep it going as far as your renewal book of business, or selfishly speaking, if you want to get out of the business, it'll be easier to get out. So you have someone else to kind of hold the reins down.
Right.
So I think it's even more important to have one. And it's going to creep up. Those are conversations I'm having now, just anticipating the next 10 to 15 years. But
I'm smack dab in the middle of bringing Clint on as a partner in the agency and giving him 10% of the agency. In fact, I've got a buy-sell agreement right here in my notebook that I'm still redlining right now that I've got to get back with Chris Brand on some answers to some questions he had about valuations and things like that. But having a plan in place where, as part of the buy-sell agreement, it actually talks about when Scott drops dead of a heart attack next week, what happens to the agency and how much money goes to my spouse, over a period of time, probably going to be 5 to 10 year period of time. So I just think it's very important because the agents that I know, and as I was telling you earlier, there's somebody today in some small town here in the United States of America that got up out of their desk to go to lunch. Maybe they've only got a couple $1 million in premium and 1 or 2 people working in the agency. The kids are moved away and they're not really interested in it. They drop dead of a heart attack. What's going to happen to that book over the next month or 2? Well, if it's in a small town and most people come to your funeral, if you don't have something in place and they know you're not there anymore and nobody and the door's locked and the black wreath's on the door, guess you know what's going to start happening. That stuff's just going to start trickling out.
And even if it's not about, even if it's the second level to that is if you care about your staff,
right?
Like think about what's going to happen to your staff. You're representing how many families do you have that you're taking care of? If you go down, no plan, and then they got to be a fire sale, they might be unemployed coming up. So, it's kind of one of those things where it's an uncomfortable conversation. I have 2 partners, there's 3 in total. I mean, we do have a buy-sell agreement. We bought life insurance on each other. You brought up a good point. We did travel together on a plane, which when we were
I told him I started to call him and go, hey, are you sure you want to do that?
Yeah, we were on the plane together, looked around and said, hey, what if something, and honestly, it was a little bit uncomfortable for 45 minutes. What if this plane does go down? We're all on the same plane. Who's going to take over? So that led to other conversations, and it's going to happen. I just think the stronger your plan is, and the more uncomfortable you get as far as maybe having those difficult conversations with a potential partner or maybe a next in line succession plan, it does set you up for better success. I think you're more valuable as a company too, if you ever want to walk away.
Yeah, and you're right. You pass away, what's going to happen to not just your staff, but your the kids that they have that you feel like are your kids almost because you're, they're part of your family. And you really start thinking about all this. It's hard not to think about it sometimes, but when you really start thinking about it, it kind of shakes you just a little bit. And if you don't have some plan in place in the event something were to happen, hell, especially now with COVID-19, hell, you and I might catch it and be in the hospital next week. You just don't know. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I'm certainly not the expert on it. Guys, if you do need the expert on it, his name is Chris Burand and Associates, Burand. I throw his name out there because in all circles that I have ever been in the insurance industry, he is widely known as the best at succession planning, buy-sell agreements, book valuations, those kinds of things. I trust Chris, and that's why I'm throwing his name out there. I wouldn't say his name if I didn't trust he was what he is. So if you do have questions, I mean, you can just Google search Burand and Associates, and they'll pull up for you. But Top 5, I love you so much, and I can't wait for you to come up here to Huntsville soon.
Hey, when I go up and visit, I'm bringing the whole team up there, man.
Come on.
It'll be an event. I appreciate your time. I love talking shop. I think, just what you do for our industry and other agents out there and have conversations. I talk to you, man. I'll talk insurance forever.
Yeah,
no doubt. And
we've got some 30,000 foot things we're working on and talking about right now that's just in the conversation stage that we would have to do an entire podcast on if we can bring it to fruition. And I think it would pique a lot of people's interest.
I'm with you too.
Yeah. Guys, tomorrow afternoon at 2:00, I'll be doing a 1-hour podcast with my friend and great American, Mr. Bill Butler. And we are going to review the book by Jim Collins, Good to Great. It should be an outstanding episode. I look forward to spending time with Bill tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. And as I end every episode, rewards come from action. Get your ass out from behind that desk today. Go out in the big bad world, sell insurance, make money for your wife, for your kids, for your parents that are struggling out there. I just put my father-in-law and mother-in-law on my cell phone plan here at work. And the reason I did that is because, by God, I can. That's right. I can do it. So help them, make money for your family, write good business for the companies that you represent, and write good business for the agencies that you represent. I love you, Top 5.
Thanks, Scott.
Guys, you were listening to the Insurance Guys podcast, and we love each and every one of you. We thank you for being a part of our family, and we'll see you back here real soon. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Insurance Guys podcast. If you need to know more about me or you need to get in touch with Scott, you can always reach me at theinsuranceguyonline.com or email me at scott@iprotectinsurance.com. And if you need to get in touch with Mr. Bradley Flowers, go to portalinsurance.com or email him at bradley@portalinsurance.com. Guys, we love you. We thank you so much for listening to our show and being a part of our family. And we look forward to seeing you again next week on the next episode of the Insurance Guys podcast. Take care.